Hello and welcome to Simply Intoxicating. The GST Council may appear to be in a little hurry. They had its 31st meeting on 22nd December, going to have its 32nd meeting on 10th January. It appears that a host of decisions, very wide range of decisions taken at 31st meeting are perhaps not enough. Good number of state finance ministers have written to the GST Council Secretariat and the Indian Finance Minister, who is the chairman of the GST Council, to reconsider the GST basic threshold of 20 lakhs, which can be enhanced to a different level. This responsibility was given to the group of ministers headed by the Minister of the State for Revenue, which is meeting on 6th. And they're going to take a final call, which will be a part of the GST Council agenda on 10th January. So a lot of changes GST Council itself is suggesting and taking decisions. These are good, very positive developments for the taxpayers. We have 4 domain experts. They are going to look at various aspects of it, its implication for the GST network, how they are going to gear up, because the entire basic structure will change after the threshold, new threshold, and of course the composition schemes. There was a composition scheme for service provider which was proposed at the previous council meeting. It was deferred. Perhaps it will be approved this time. So we have Mr. Akash Singh, former member, CESTAT. We have Mr. Bimal Jain, Chairman, Indirect Tax Committee, PhD Chambers. We have Mr. Puneet Bansal, partner, Nitya Associates, our knowledge partner also. And we have Mr. Sant Kumar Burma, Director Taxation for Schneider Electric. So let me start with Puneetji. I mean, going forward, what exactly you are looking forward to? You know, on the GST front, because the council is seized of a large basket of issues. So how do you look at all this?
In 31st meeting, there are a lot of operational issues which the council has eased out for the industry, like deferring the date of taking credits to 31st March 2019.
Right.
And very interestingly, in between the date was 25th October, there was a gap. So the credit might have died, but it has again given birth to.
Yes,
fresh life. It's a very, very positive relief because most of the companies were not able to do those reconciliations, etc.
Right.
So it's on a very, very positive note. Similarly, the extension of GST annual return to 30th June. Indeed, it's a positive step, and there are some tweaking in the formats as well. But on the GST audit format, there are a couple of things which I look forward to. One, still the formats are very, very complex. The items like expense-wise ITC details, goods services-wise ITC details.
Right.
These are actually not relevant from a law perspective, but taking out these details from the ERP, filling in the forms, these will be really, really complex. Secondly, it raises a concern in my mind that is there sanctity of due dates in government's mind or not? Because since GST has come, GSTR 1 returns, GSTR 3B returns, ITC 04 returns, ISD returns, they are getting postponed indefinitely. And it creates a feeling in the mind of the taxpayer that yes, I can do it later as well. And just few days back, the government deferred the date of GST annual return to 31st March. I don't know what happened in 10 days. That 3-month further extension was needed. And a taxpayer can have a view that, the formats may again change, it may get deferred later. So I'm only worried that it should not happen that people don't see the compliances seriously, that these can always be deferred. Apart from that, there are a lot of legal issues which are creeping in GST, and that's mostly because of advance rulings. So government has done a lot of things on rate rationalization. Some products they have kept from 28 to 18, 18 to 12, etc. But still, there are a lot of growing disputes like UPS battery, solar power. So government need to come out with real clarifications for the past as to how to address these issues for the industry.
Right.
If my auditor is auditing the books today, should he adopt 5%? Should he adopt 18%? Even though advance ruling was binding on a particular taxpayer also, should he apply in some other cases or not? Apart from that, looking forward, another positive thing is that CGST Act changes. They will be applicable from 1st February,
right.
which will be enhancing the credit basket for the
Right.
taxpayers.
Correct.
Another very important thing I look forward is this new GST return formats, which government is planning to bring from 1st April on a trial basis and on mandatory basis from 1st July. Because this will envisage taxpayers to operate their ITC account just like a bank account.
Right.
Like every invoice which has come, that has to be matched or recorded, including accepting on the government's portal then and there only.
Right.
Otherwise, the credit will not be available. So to that extent, lot of things I see which will undergo changes in future.
Correct.
Even on the rate side, there's a lot of talk going about that threshold is likely to increase.
Right.
The government is planning composition scheme for the taxpayers.
So people touch these
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Let's hear from the horse's mouth how comfortable and in a blushing mode the taxpayers, the corporates are. You know, a lot of positive changes have been done.
Right.
You know, and you do you think that the deferment of dates, due dates for GSTR 9, 9C, it has gone up to June now. Let's presume that the government is little more friendly with the taxpayer and defers it by another 6 months. You will welcome it? It's a bad.
I'll put it this way. I think many notifications and clarifications that came on 31st December was a good welcome New Year gift for the trade industry.
Okay.
So I'll touch upon only the operational aspects where a lot of relaxation has happened. On the credit side, I think hundreds and maybe thousands of crores for large companies was in confusion or in doubt because of that 20th October
Correct.
date.
It was lost.
So you get 6 more months now.
Right.
And I think some shortcuts were carried out by some companies. I think they need not get into those shortcuts now. You get 6 months window and get this back. Interact with the vendor, and you also get now opportunity to correct your upload invoice, etc.
Yes.
Data. While I think GST is not accepting those changes now, I hope that in next few weeks or days
Yes, they
it will be enabled.
Right.
So that's one of the major reliefs, because as I said, I think could be thousands of crores,
Thousands
which
of
was under
crores.
question mark. You
Correct.
get it back. The extension of 9 and 9C, I think, takes into account this relief, since this relief is now till 20th of
Correct.
April.
Right.
Right.
If you don't further extend the annual return and audit date,
Right.
and if you keep that
Yes.
31st March, it doesn't make sense. So that's the reason they have extended further.
3 months.
In fact, we were in some discussion 3 weeks back, and we were debating that, and by that time, this 3 month extension has already happened. We were debating whether this is sufficient,
Right.
and we came to the conclusion that it is not sufficient. 3 months will just pass, like that, and you'll still, you'll be in March, and you'll find you'll struggle to still fill up the, this elaborate form.
Correct.
So I think, in my view, this is a good one. Of course, the rate relaxation from 18 to 12 and 28 to 18 in certain cases, I think it will benefit those respective industries. That's a good one. The announcement for setting up centralized AAR,
Right.
I think this was being sought for almost
Yeah.
since the
Right from
inception, or
beginning,
maybe
yes.
before the
Correct.
inception, people were talking about it. Because the state level AR, now if I make that statement, maybe 30-40% of them are bad decisions.
Correct.
I don't think it will be an overstatement.
I know.
So
You're just too kind to them.
Yes.
So you need a redressal mechanism to deal with this. So I think that's a good announcement. So I think these are very welcome changes from that point of view. I'm also mindful about this new change, which is
the
of
new
course which
format,
we know.
GSTR.
Right.
Okay.
The monthly reconciliation, and you take only that much you are able to
Right.
map and all of that. I think industry really need to realign
Yeah.
their accounting, because on a monthly basis, if their bill acceptance process,
Right.
GRN and matching with the vendors, I hope that last 18 months, 19 months experience would help in putting this together. Otherwise, you'll have a delay in claiming the credits.
Absolutely.
So I think that's one which we need to watch out for.
So that, Santji has sort of given full credit to the government, but also a word of caution, where exactly little safeguards are required. What's your opinions around these issues?
My opinion seems to remain consistent as it has been.
Right, sir.
I give more than full marks to the political leadership for their sagacity, for their pragmatism, for their farsightedness.
Right.
And I wish I could give similar marks to the remaining government machinery
Right.
in that regard. But going forward, I have a few observations. Number one, if some way could be found by which the tax paid under composition scheme could be allowed credit of. I can see the difficulties, but are those difficulties only logistical, which can be overcome? If that could be done, that will not break the chain of credit, and that will be very welcome. Number two, I think we still keep talking about goods and services separately, and that has to be relooked, because many goods can be turned into a service. And similarly, it's very difficult to find somebody who's giving pure service, for example. Even a hair salon, for example, will sell
Yeah.
you some
Right.
kind of a dye.
Correct,
So
sir.
this old mindset of treating these two separately has to go. That will make a lot of things very, very simple. Third, a clarification is required when you set up a statutory time limit in the law, 90 days to issue an order. If it is not issued in 90 days but issued in 100 days, is the law invalid, or is the decision invalid, or it only means that the person who delayed it will be taken to task? I mean, that clarification has to come. GSTR 9 and 9C, they say, okay, they're going to have a trial from 1st of April. If you're going to have a trial, how can you be sure of trial being successful? To say in the same breath, and therefore it will be implemented from 1st of July, it probably is putting the cart before the horse. I mean,
Right.
that's what I believe. Then the super advanced ruling authority at the national level, aren't we creating another tribunal in that sense? In which case, why not give that power or that function to the tribunal, GST tribunal, so that you will not have multiplicity of agencies in the process? And will that solve the problem? So what happens to the person who got a favorable order up to the advanced ruling appellate authority? Will he be subjected to the same uncertainty which he was trying to avoid to begin with? I mean, these are the observations which I have. Then the exemption limits. I mean, you
Yes.
have already mentioned that
Right.
there is a huge demand for raising it. 20 lakhs is neither here nor there, frankly, and I'm sure they'll go ahead.
Right, sir.
Some of the observations I had.
Sure. So, Bimalji, I mean, having heard three domain experts, and the fact that you have already articulated your views on most of these issues, but ideally, what changes do you actually envisage or visualize? Once the threshold, and what is the ideal threshold now? Of course, initially, most of the global experts suggested that the threshold should be reasonably high; it should not be low. But I guess it was the fear for the revenue loss, etc., that forced, and the consensus was actually built on that ground, that presumption, and that is how it happened. But now the GST Council is very comfortable. Most of the state finance ministers themselves are very keen. The threshold should be enhanced. So, because once the threshold is enhanced, a good number of taxpayers will be out of the tax net, and then the composition of the composition scheme itself will undergo a mega change. So how do you look at all this? What changes? Because this will trigger changes, concomitant changes in the GST network, the software, the GSTRs, the GSTR 99C. All these things they will take a blow in some format. So ideally, what should be that threshold?
Can I take your permission to make quick 3 observations?
Please do that.
And then coming to your point.
Yes.
My first quick observation is government is receptive. They're listening. They're doing all positive changes. But while doing so, the things are not coming in a right perspective. Let me take the first one. Waiver of late fees, those who have not filed GSTR 1 and 3B. Now, they're giving waiver of late fees to only such taxpayer who could not file,
Right.
and they would be filing after 22nd December to 31st March. What happened if I have filed belatedly and paid the late fees? Is it the parity we are looking into? This is not the masses. Masses is we are waiving off late fees for all. And you want to reward honest taxpayer who filed belatedly and paid the late fees. Those who could not file or they have not filed it, they are being given waiver of late fees, not going in parity. First point. Second point, coming to 9 and 9C. revised format has come. I've seen the revised format, and even revised format I can take up in annual return GSTR 9 part 5, still going with the same theme line that you can avail credit either by September due date or due date of annual return, whichever is earlier. Whereas they have said this credit can be availed till 31st March 2019. Why it is not in parity? This is in revised format. So I'm saying, are we really making changes in a way required to be? Or for annual return and 9C, my suggestion to the government would be, being first year, we have seen we are lacking with the utility, not available. Format is getting changed. Number of due date for availing credit is getting changed. Why can't we done away first year 9 and 9C? Let be prepared for the next year, second year. Second suggestion. Third suggestion which I'm giving, now new return they are talking about. I've seen that draft new return, and I'm getting some feeler of it. That is again going to be extensive return. Why you need extensive return? When you are saying this is the unidirectional, credit is available only when supplier upload the outward supply, then why you need a 6-pager or 8-pager monthly return? It should be only 2-pager. And missing invoices, maybe concept can be brought in, but that with the timeline, that till September of next financial year, you can reconcile all missing invoices. So that there will not be T plus 2 months. So there are 3 big observations coming to your point on threshold amount. We have seen pre-GST era, excise manufacturer enjoying 1.5 crore. Service tax 10 lakh. VAT was ranging from 5 lakh to 20 lakh. Now they're first time talking. We were saying from day 1, July 1, 2017, that this would be increased to certain level, maybe 50 lakh, maybe 75 lakh. That time we were told that it has got tax implication, revenue implication. Now they are really looking into and they're working on it. To me, looks like 50 lakh rupees would be the reasonable, ideal amount to have threshold exemption for registration. Why I'm saying so? With this 50 lakh, lot of small taxpayer will go away, and they will get the benefit of doing business, and business will grow. See what happens if they are purchasing, they will be charged GST, of which credit is not available if they are not registered. If they are not registered, but the compliances will ease out. And with that message, they are going to give the message to the trade, industry and commerce, good and simplicity will come. So 50 lakh, taking manufacturer, service provider and trader. But when you're making 50 lakh, just one point on composition dealer. Composition dealer, now you have seen that 1 crore is the limit, but there's a restriction, he can't do interstate outward supply of goods.
So we will touch that point separately.
Yeah.
Whether this 50 lakhs threshold, Punitji, now I would like to have your view. Looking at this 50 lakh threshold, naturally, I mean, you think that this is an ideal threshold, or it should be little higher, because most of the global experts have suggested that India should go for at least 80 to 90 lakhs kind of threshold, exemption threshold. But fine, I mean, maybe based on the data and the government has and revenue implication, etc., the 50 lakhs threshold itself, do you think it's a good number? And what implication it will have, like, the composition scheme, and what should be the nature of composition? And now the ITC point which the sir pointed out for the composition dealers, maybe, sir also made one very vital point, that under the GST law, the services and the goods, no artificial distinction should be made, because it is goods and services law.
Yes.
So, I mean, that is where, your opinion on these 2 points, the composition and the threshold.
Firstly, I'll take the composition point. In my view, there are composition schemes under earlier VAT laws also. There are composition schemes under income tax law also.
Right.
And this is there in the GST. So the basic concept of composition scheme is that I don't want to do normal compliances. You take this much money from it, and that's the end of it. I beg to differ with sir that in my view, once composition scheme has come, so that is an extra cost for the taxpayer, and that cost is in lieu of him avoiding any compliances. So whatever he pays, that's the end of it. Now coming to the amount, in my view, a figure of 1 crore might be a reasonable figure, because as we see both in direct and indirect taxes, the number of taxpayers who constitute to 70 or 80% of revenue are in few thousands only. But the cost of collection of taxes from remaining 20-30% or for 20-30% revenues from so many large people is very, very expensive for the government. So government keeps on spending so much time, effort, energy, but tax collection is minimal. So in my view, if the government can increase the threshold to 1 crore, then a lot of these smaller companies, and considering today's inflation, cost parity, etc., 1 crore is not such a big figure. 1 crore means just 8 lakhs in a month,
Right.
or just 30,000 in a day of turnover. In my view, I have larger points apart from threshold is that, yes, we can always say that the GST laws could have been perfect from day one. The government should have envisaged all these things. Government should not have firstly created the mess and then cleared it out. But in such a big reform, you cannot have an ideal state in day one.
True.
What I look forward is that if you see in last 18 months, procedural, lot of things have simplified. And I feel in next 1.5 years, they will be totally smooth. The government is receptive, people are giving suggestions, they are implementing it. In my view, the major concerns which will come up for taxpayers is the legal issues. Like everyone is talking about advance ruling. In my view, firstly, the constitution of present advance ruling authorities, be it the first authority or appellate authority, these are both revenue departmental officers only. There is no judicial member which is present. Even the appellate body which they are talking about has a very limited scope. That talks about only where there are conflicting advance rulings.
Correct.
It is not that suppose
All
I as a
decisions, yes.
taxpayer has applied, I have got an adverse thing, I cannot go there. I firstly need to prove that there is someone who has got an adverse ruling. So what I look forward in GST in future is that there are a lot of legal issues which are coming up generally either at the taxpayer's end or because of these advance rulings. And these advance rulings have been coming for last 1 year. I think these need to be addressed first, either way.
Okay.
Either the government issues clarifying that this is our stand.
Right.
Or secondly, in any case, you change the law in future either way. Suppose you want to collect a higher rate of tax on a product, you make it in the law so that there is no ambiguity for future.
Right.
But if your intention is that lower rate applies, you show clarification or make changes in the law. So for me, yes, procedural things have smoothened, they will smoothen up. On thresholds, government is being proactive, government is likely to increase the threshold. But the legal issues, or if you can reduce the legal disputes in future, I think that's what I look forward to.
Sir, I mean, this on this point, the composition, I will come back. Sir, this, we have a composition scheme for the goods. Now the GST Council is approving a composition scheme for the service providers. Why to have two different kind of composition scheme if the threshold itself is going to go up? Let's have one composition scheme for traders as well as small service providers and one tax rate.
Precisely. I mean, I totally agree with you. As a matter of fact, having two schemes will create further confusion. And therefore, no distinction between goods and services and only one composition scheme. Same threshold limit for both. In that context, I think going forward, and because the meeting will take place on 6th, if you look at the basic fundamental GST concept, it was no essential change between the tax credits and the output tax. In which case, if you have subsumed in theory KKR or education cess into your GST, then not allowing credit of those was totally against any economic concepts of credit transfer. One more point which struck me in the GST Council decision was that if you have not filed your return for 2 consecutive sessions, you will not be allowed to generate
E-way bills.
E-way bill.
Right.
Now that to me, to use a strong word, is cutting a nose to spite your face. Why close the economic activity? Why close the factory? You can take action against him. But you cannot close the economic activity down merely because somebody did not file a return. So these kind of one-sided draconian kinds of measures in the hope of implementing and ensuring compliance should be avoided, I think, in the presented world.
We will touch that.
For composition, as you said, when government is looking into increased threshold amount, let's say 50 lakh or 1 crore, whatever has been suggested, I'm of the view that we should done away with composition registration. Completely.
Okay.
Not for goods, nor for services. What happened today? You got 1 crore limit
Right.
for composition dealer, and that too with lot of restriction, no credit available. He can't do interstate outward supply, and now you're thinking of increasing exemption threshold amount. So done away with the composition, because composition you have seen they are not getting favorable reception in the trade. So increasing the threshold amount, easing the business, and then composition will go away completely, will create more, conducive and ease of business. Overall objective of the government, which government is looking into. This is my observation. Second observation, which sir was saying, for this e-way bill can't be generated if 2 consecutive. Fortunate part is this is from a date to be notified. Rule 138E is going to be applicable from a date to be notified. So I will look for that such kind of mechanisms should be brought in only when they really conclude that taxpayer is not filing because of his own fault. There are certain times we have seen that we want to file the return, could not file because I'm not having enough cash in my hand. Because GST is on accrual basis, sometime I delay the process, less the working capital be there, then I can pay the taxes and file the return. These are the quick observation on.
No, it's very good. Yes, sir.
There's one small point where we talk about exemption limit being extended to 75 lakhs or 1 crore. What are we actually talking about? I'm not very clear. Are we talking about the exemption from registration?
Yes, sir.
Or exemption from payment of tax? In which case there will be no RCM.
Yes.
If it's going to be an RCM on these people, then we are back to square one, frankly speaking. Then it won't be giving the same benefit.
Yes, sir, correct.
That complete exemption from
complete
registration.
exemption. Yes.
So this increasing this amount means
Correct.
then you do not require composition,
Yes.
you do not require to pay RCM liability.
Correct.
No, not you. The person buying from you.
Let's say I'm
Will
a person, I'm purchasing from you, then RCM will not be applicable if I'm not registered.
Correct.
Right now it is.
No,
It is deferred till 30th September.
Deferred, but
Yeah.
it's still there.
Yeah.
The law.
Deferred,
yeah. This 9.4 which you're referring to, 9.4 is deferred till 30th September 2019.
Correct. So will it be revived for the exempted people?
They have said only for a class of taxable
Yes.
person. That's the
Yes.
provision given in the law.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
maybe you will find some change in this regard.
Yes.
2019 they are referring to, and I'm hopeful about that they will not brought in same kind of provision.
Yeah.
They will brought in only for certain class of taxpayer.
Yes, that is to be notified.
Yes,
Which class?
yes.
So Sanjay,
See,
in
the point
fact,
is,
yeah.
just dealing with this point further, a registered person buying from an unregistered person whose threshold is increased to say 75 lakh or 1 crore, I don't think RCM need to be brought in.
Yeah,
In
it
any
should not
case,
be
you-
brought in.
In any
Right.
case, you pay, you take credit.
Right.
It's a zero-sum game.
Yes.
In any case, your outbound liability will go up
Yeah.
if you. So
True,
I don't think it makes any sense. The existing provision which says for certain categories, I think that seems okay. If
Right.
they see, if they find that no, there could be certain categories
Yes,
of goods where
that
there
power
is a
rests
chance
with
of
the
evasion,
government,
etc.
yes.
You just restrict to that.
Correct.
You need not implement this on a wholesale basis on every registered buyer.
But Sanjay, do you welcome the suggestion which Mr. Bimal Jain made that the GSTR 99C, for first year of GST implementation, that is 17-18, it should be put
I'll
in
be
the
very
dustbin?
happy. I will be very happy.
No, for the reason I said, sir, again I'm repeating for the sake of my viewers. First year, you see the lot of challenges. This revised format still carrying the provision which is being corrected by 31st GST Council meeting. So I'm saying that there is no synergy of even revised format coming in. I will take 1 minute quick. In revised format of GSTR 9, they still want to have bifurcation of credit into input service and capital goods.
That's where
Do
the
we have
challenge is.
captured?
Correct.
Second, 17.5 block credit. I have debited to my expense account. Do you want me to go back and start opening my invoices? Third, demand. We have to mention the detail of demand rate. What is the demand? So cause notice or the adjudication order? I'm going to hire up appellate authority. Is it a demand? That's the point I'm referring to. I'm saying that first year we all are passing through, either a taxpayer or tax department passing through a synergy phase. Why can't we create some kind of a platform where from we can take off?
No, so Bimali, I think the suggestion is very good, and as I said, I think industry would be very happy. But I am doubtful whether this will happen.
No,
I think
but
what the ask was that this form should be diluted and be very extremely simplified. That has not happened. They have done away with few things, few requirements, but I think by and large the major requirements still continue. I hope that since the 6 months are there and since there is an, as Puneet mentioned, that eternally dates are getting shifted, there is also an eternal hope.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I was highlighting.
During the next date,
Right.
during the next date, you will have more simplification, etc., etc. So I think I'm hoping that there will be simplification on this.
Now, Punitji, the fact that Bimalji has raised quite a few valid points vis-a-vis the GSTR 9 and 9C, and some of the data which were never captured by the trade industry, now the data has to be reinvented. Either you dig up, go back to the ERP and sort of manufacture
Big
it
company,
again.
they can do it. What about small timer?
No,
Big
I'm
companies can't
talking
do it.
about big companies only.
Okay, so you agree?
Big companies have big
They're
trouble
where they're
in
at.
that.
No, I'll tell you, Bimal. See, we had, as I was mentioning, we had a meeting where large companies were there, including HUL, Tata Steel, and everybody. They all said that categorization of credit into capital input service tax not possible.
Correct.
And we made there was a representation that we said that if you force us to do it, we'll do it on an best estimation basis. It will be 95%
Yes.
correct. So you can always come back and say it's incorrect.
Yes.
So this is going contrary. They didn't wanted these information to be filled up in 3B. Now we have to capture in annual return,
It's a
and that
problem.
too expense wise in 9C.
Because ERPs
That's
are
the
not,
reason I'm suggesting to the government. I'm saying that for the first year, since we are coming on a same platform, you're creating a new return format. Let new return would be the basis for my annual return in 9C in future years to come.
So that is.
That's what I'm
Yes,
suggesting.
so that is my question to Puneji, that given all these troubles and the problem area, the distortions, and you're trying to capture the escaped ones and which never escaped. So looking at all this possibility and the fact that GST Council itself is making so many changes now, the new format, new threshold now, the changes in the GST and all the tools and software. Why not do you think that it will be ideal for the GST Council to scrap it, this GST 9 and 9C for 2 years? Bimalji has suggested, just 1 year, little miserly, so why not to make it 2 years? Because again, these changes are taking place. First year, now second year changes. The second year itself looks like first year now. So how do you look at this possibility?
So in my view, if I see from a government's perspective, presently any taxpayer is filing GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. GSTR 1 only captures the customers to whom you are selling your sales details. GSTR 3B is overall abstract, total sales, total credits, etc. The government does not have much information about your quality of credits. Are you taking ineligible credits or not? So from a government's perspective, in my view, GSTR 9 and 9C should continue because these are the data points that should be there. If you're going in a self-assessment regime, if we have given these data points to them, that should be end of it. But yes, I fully understand that or I fully appreciate that the present formats are too complex. Be it the categorization of goods and services, be it the categorization of expenses, many of these things can be taken away. The forms can be simplified to a great extent so that be it a smaller taxpayer, be it a larger taxpayer, because under VAT also, there used to be a concept of annual return, which used to be summation of your total yearly returns and an overall matching
and
with
if you have
your
something missed out, you
yes,
put it
right,
there.
you put it there. Another point I want to highlight is, which again in my view is way forward, that all the companies or all the taxpayers, they're subject to various laws. Like under companies law, you need to prepare your balance sheet. Under income tax, you need to file your returns. If you have foreign related party transactions, you have transfer pricing, you have GST regulations as well. Can we see someday that there is a single return covering all the legislations? Can all Companies Act authorities, income tax authorities, GST authorities sit together that these are the total information I need? I give you 6 months, 9 months. Taxpayer, you do it, and that's end of it. I know that it will be derogatory for the professionals. The work will significantly reduce.
You have to think in terms of taxpayer and the economy. Yes.
Thinking from both from
Yes.
taxpayer's perspective and
Yes,
government's perspective.
right.
Firstly, we ask to prepare 3 set of records.
Right.
Then we ask to prepare reconciliations. Then we find gaps in that and we raise demands.
Just to
Yes,
add one line. only.
Please.
See, from tax professional perspective, we are not looking for opportunity to create business. No,
Yes.
no. We really want GST should be good and simple for the nation as a whole. We are the party to it. Whatever comment I'm making today here, I'm only saying the first year, if revised format coming in is not revised as per the recommendation given, do you think still is a doable task? It is not a doable task. So what I'm suggesting, okay, if you want to capture the data which you wanted me to fill up in GSTR 1 and 3B with a timeline open 31st March for availing credit. You should not ask the information which I have not picked up, not identified for filling up in my annual return and audit. Okay, let's carry on with the annual return and audit, but have simplification, maybe 2-pager and 3-pager for the first year, and then protection of government revenue, they got audit mechanism, they got anti-evasion, they got lot many other mechanisms to go about it. They can pick up the tax evaders accordingly. I'm saying they must reward the honest taxpayer. They have gone ahead, walked the talk along with the government to make it good and simple. Make little more good and simple and say, still we are listening to you.
Okay, sir. You
Uh,
wanted.
two small points. In the present-day world of computer computing, when you are having several monthly returns, then conceptually it's very difficult to digest the idea that you must also have an annual return. Why that cannot be a compilation of suitably amended monthly returns, for example. Second, all these changes which are brought about by GSTN, and we are feeling very happy about it, GST Council very happy about it, and they're worth being happy about. But there is an anxiety caught in a corner of my mind with every small change like this, because think of the last mile person. These changes will take a long time to percolate down there. So these changes create huge confusion in the minds of people who are in smaller towns, where even professionals are not able to keep abreast of these changes. So these changes should be there, yes, but they should not be that frequent. Every month you cannot be changing things and then expect that, oh, whole thing will flow down to the last person to comply with that. So one should be mindful of those things also.
That's it. So
That's
on
a very
this,
important point.
on this note, let me thank all my 4 guests and very valid points suggested. Sir suggested that yes, too many changes are of course welcome, but it should not be too frequent. The changes must be given, it will have its own gestation period to settle down, filter down, trickle down to the people at the last mile. That is a very valid point, but it's a process of evolution, and the GST is a new legislation. Naturally, it will have some gestation period, and the fact that we are such a large economy with so many federal partners, and all the partners being ruled by different parties, lots of philosophies, so we have to create a different kind of sangam, and that sangam itself is so deep and so diverse that it is calling and warranting different kind of changes. So those changes, as Punitji rightly suggested, that ideally looking forward there should be a one form, like sir suggested that when taxpayers are filing monthly data, why this annual return? The data is being captured by the system, and the servers are exchanging, like GSTN server is exchanging data with the income tax. Income tax already has a tie-up now, the formalization of the memorandum of understanding with the MOC, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and the ROC data has been exchanged. The fact that the servers are interacting, why not the human mind should interact and make it one? Perhaps the government, the future government will certainly look at this possibility. But looking at the GSTR 9 and 9C, where a lot of data ideally suggested by Mr. Bimal Jain that it should be a scrap for 1 year, and maybe all the tables given in that should be revisited. Certain data which has not been captured, the industry and trade should not be asked to furnish those data, because as rightly suggested, the operational issues, the ground level problem, Mr. Shantakumar Verma suggested that it will be only based on the best estimation method, and the best estimation method in the eyes of tax administration will never be the best. So looking at all these ground level issues and the positive intent of the GST Council to make it easier and make GST truly simple tax and good and simple tax, let's hope that the next GST Council meeting will certainly, we will see many more decisions, and our political leadership, the center and the state, will show more pragmatism to make it easier for all of us. Thanking you all for watching TLT.